Kenny Harris, As I Live and Breathe. Just in time to see the unveiling. Mr. Griffin, would you oblige?
Ruddy Nora.
Ever since Doctor Who was first on our screens, this gentleman has been in a league of his own.
We'll show him whether this is a time machine or not.
Way back in the decade of revolution, when the BBC saw double, the world was changing fast as a new generation of broadcasters set sail.
We're going to do the thing right here with the infragram go on, Caroline South.
In a time of groundbreaking shows and hip-shaking sounds, William Hartnell became top of the docks.
Welcome to January the 1st, 1964. It's 6:34 p.m. and it's a programme that you've never heard of before.
Brusque, but never brisk, this doddering doctor became the nation's favourite grandad from Gallifrey.
William Hartnell, the very first Doctor, who created this show that was only going to run for 6 weeks. He arrived, this grumpy, old, mysterious, wonderful character. I think he softened a bit as he played it. He's the founding father, and we revere him.
But times, they were a-changing. And when Hartnell preferred retirement to time travel, it was up to Patrick Troughton to take up the mantle of this maverick Time Lord.
You get William Hartnell. He's an old, authoritative grandfather, which very much suits the early 60s. Patrick Troughton comes along, and the most brilliant thing about him is that he's got a Beatles haircut. It is literally a Beatles haircut. If that doesn't say late 60s to you, I don't know what does.
While Twiggy twisted the night away and the first man landed on the moon...
Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11.
The second man in the TARDIS was taking off in style.
When I say run, run. Run!
If I had to put my hand on my heart and say, OK, excluding yourself, who's your favourite Doctor? I would have to say him, because of my memories of that transformation, of being appalled that somebody else was going to play the Doctor, of realising later that in the hands of a less skillful character actor than Patrick Troughton, that would have been the end of the series.
This colourful character ended the 60s on a high, and Doctor Who would never be seen in black and white again.
If I had a colour television set, I wouldn't want anything else for the rest of my day. It's a television! It's in colour!
Back in the 70s, John Pertwee's Doctor was the original Inspector Gadget. While T-Rex glammed up rock, Pertwee glammed up the dock, setting the platform for a whole new generation of Doctor Who fans.
We all want to play games, don't we?
I'm quite spry for my age, actually.
Oh, there we go. Terrific.
John Pertwee comes along then, and it is Jimi Hendrix. The look is absolutely Hendrix, the frilly shirts, the velvet jackets. You know, it's assimilating the early 70s perfectly into a really sort of Jason King, Jimi Hendrix type image, which works perfectly for that man.
Hey, Joe, I said, where you going, that gun in your hand?
While Jimi Hendrix played his six-string and George Best tugged at heartstrings, Pertwee drove, hovered and flew his way into the 70s.
In life, he was also a tremendous adventurer. He skied, he used to dive for treasure and motorbikes, car racing. John did all those things, so there was a little bit of the Doctor in John.
You better beware, you better take care, you better watch out if you got long black hair. You come from behind, you go out of your mind, you better not go, you never know what you'll
In the decade of hoppers and choppers, John Pertwee was full of flair, cutting a dash as Dandy Doctor number 3.
Funny thing is, they left a lot of valuable and top secret stuff behind. Here's a list of all they actually took.
Just what you need for the control circuitry of one powerful, compact technological device. A disintegrator gun, for instance.
Tom Baker comes along, I think, as maybe life's getting a bit more bohemian then, a bit more eccentric, a bit more free-for-all. There's a lot more freedom in I think, in Tom Baker's portrayal and in the clothes that he wears, so maybe that suits the age.
From the goodies to the good life, Citizen Smith to the Silver Jubilee, viewers were in for a right royal treat in the 70s.
Looking back on Doctor Who, is that it was the best thing that absolutely ever happened to me. It was simply wonderful.
While Borg was charming centre court, Tom Baker took centre stage, becoming the longest-serving Doctor to date. The Doctor's taken on many forms, with a trio of time travellers in the 80s alone.
Ripping performance! Come over to the house and meet the Major.
As records became CDs and notes became coins, the change from Baker to Davison held no barriers for Peter.
I always likened playing Doctor Who as playing in the street, you know, when you're a kid, where you fantasise about saving the universe. And suddenly, you know, at the age of 29, or whenever I started playing the part, there I was, actually saving the universe every week. It was fantastic.
Peter Davison, it's sort of a preppy look, because the early 80s, it's a little bit studenty. I mean, he wears sneakers. I think he's the first Doctor ever to wear sneakers, and they're quite funny trousers. It's the sort of thing students would have worn, possibly on a rag week.
Haven't you got that thing started yet?
Give us a chance, Mike.
Yeah, we've made some toast.
While the young ones were amusing and Pat was posting, this bleached blonde doc was pushing the boundaries as Doctor number 5.
I came up with the idea for my outfit, which was my stripy trousers and sort of beige. It was a vision in beige, really. And I thought it looked rather silly until I saw Colin Baker's outfit.
As EastEnders moved into Albert Square, Colin Baker moved into the TARDIS.
This is Perry, my assistant.
Hi.
Only the two of you?
Yes, travelling light this time. Besides, so difficult to recruit good staff these days, don't you agree?
With a costume louder than Live Aid, his Doctor was blonde and curly, mean and moody.
We're heading towards the middle 80s, and then, you know, if you look back and see photographs of yourself in the 80s, they're absolutely terrible, and we all look shocking. And there's Colin Baker in the loudest, most colourful, most 1980s fashions you could possibly have.
They wanted me to be totally tasteless, so I had a totally tasteless costume.
99 red balloons floating.
I was kind of saddled with something that hadn't been my choice. The only good thing was I was on the inside of it looking out. It was somebody else's problem to have to look at it.
From the TARDIS to the Titanic, phones to filofaxes, the 80s generation was upwardly mobile. But by 86, Baker was down and out, to be replaced by Doctor number 7. As Voyager boldly went where no other craft had been before, our Gallifreyan globetrotter was now Sylvester McCoy.
What are you expecting to find down here anyway?
The unknown.
Oh, isn't that a bit dangerous then?
Probably. But then if I knew what was down here, I wouldn't have to look.
As the late 80s settled down, then you get Sylvester McCoy. It's a bit eccentric, it's a bit more practical. There's duffel coats, it's sort of ordinary jackets. The whole Doctor image calms down eventually then, as fashion was calming down, I think.
When I went for the interview, I arrived, it was a sunny day, and I had my hat, my straw hat on that way, turned up. I think that's one of the reasons why I got Doctor Who.
The end of the 80s signalled a temporary end for Doctor Who. In the year of falling walls and falling viewing figures, McCoy battled bravely to keep Doctor Who afloat. The last time the Doctor was seen on our screens, Paul McGann was in control of the TARDIS.
I quite like him. He's a bit like a puppy. Sort of runs around, yapping and sniffing at anything with a bottom.
In the 1990s, as men behaved badly on our televisions, Paul McGann behaved impeccably as the 8th Doctor.
I shall prove to you the Eye of Harmony is open. Look at this.
Yes.
You see, already the molecular structure of the planet is changing.
I'm going to need an ambulance as soon as possible. This is Dr. Grace Holloway.
At first in subtle ways, but soon in catastrophic ways.
As the 90s drew to a close, no one knew what was in store for the Doctor in the new millennium.
Millennium Bug.
Millennium Bug.
Millennium Bug. The Millennium Bug.
Paul McGann comes along, and it's on Millennium Eve. It's set on December the 31st, 1999. And actually, it's quite fun. At the end of a century, you get a costume that's actually a distillation of what you imagine Doctor Who to be. It's foppish and Edwardian and old-fashioned, and it's a beautiful, beautiful costume. And it's like the Doctor summing up himself at the end of the century there.
It's in a cubbyhole above the P.
God, why a police box?
Its cloaking device got stuck on a previous misadventure. I get on this.
I thought he was full of heart, full of warmth. I thought he was charismatic, he's funny, he's gentle, and there are certain moments in there that I think are some of the best moments of Doctor Who ever made.